Remember back at the beginning of the season when there was so much excitement about the Oklahoma City Thunder? Sam Presti's riverboat gamble of first swiping Paul George from Indy, then collecting Carmelo. I mean, it was downright tantalizing. Vegas odd makers raised OKC's chances of winning the title from 60-1 to 16-1. Flash forward to last night, when the only serious title contender on Oklahoma City's floor appeared to be the visitors. Yes, the Thunder had the score close in the third, but Houston then went on a run that looked so effortless. I mean, it's kind of like someone changed the video game setting over to rookie mode right there in the middle of the quarter. You could see the frustration just building on the Thunder player faces as they absorbed all the blows. And actually, I got to be honest, you could hear it too. This is a family show, so we're going to put a bleep in there as we show you Melo on one of James Harden's drives. I'm not even going to get into the irony of Carmelo Anthony chastising Steven Adams on defense, but obviously, look, I mean, the Rockets do make it really hard to help in that scenario. That is part of why they are so lethal. And of course, Oklahoma City is missing its best defender. By the way, if you're one of those people who didn't think it was a big deal when Andre Robertson went down for the season with that exploding knee, take a look at his impact on the Thunder's defensive efficiency. With Robertson, they were at 102.6. That was fifth best in the NBA. In the stretch since he got hurt, they're 109.2. Now, how bad is 109.2? Well, no NBA team has made the playoffs with a defensive rating that bad in the last 30 years. That, ladies and gentlemen, is what we call a big swing. And it wasn't tough to foresee. In fact, when Robertson got hurt before the deadline, I turned to our friend Brian Windhorst and asked if the loss of Robertson was so lethal, Presti might actually consider dealing Paul George. Now, follow me here. The idea would be that by acquiring PG in the first place, Presti had already accomplished the most important thing, which was convincing Russ that OKC was dedicated to winning and that Russ should sign that big extension. Of course, the idea had been to next convince PG to re-sign on the strength of making a strong playoff run this year. But without Robertson, it was hard already before the trade deadline to see OKC getting past the second round. And therefore, it was worth at least asking if maybe it would be smarter to deal PG for some value before risking him leaving in free agency, like Kevin Durant. Not shockingly, at the time, the answer Presti gave all our reporters was a strong no. In early February, the Thunder were feeling confident in both the relationships they built with George and their chances, even without Robertson, to still compete. Remember when Russ was asked what his sales pitch to PG would be this summer? His answer was, quote, "The sales pitch is going to be when we win a championship." That was actually just a month ago. Sure feels like a lot longer. Right now, the Thunder sit in 7th place in the West. They're actually, though, tied in the loss column with the Clippers, who are in 9th. Are you keeping Paul George if you don't even make the playoffs? Maybe? I don't know. Maybe those relationships the front office has faith in, maybe they are strong enough to convince PG to reinvest. It's too early to say, but last night sure felt like a statement about something bigger than just a loss. Oh my, how things have changed. All right, so what do you think? You're looking at these last 20 or so games of this season. What do you guys think they have to do for convince Paul George this is a place I want to be from this summer next on?
Hey, look, I mean, the Russ whiteboard is still relatively sensible. I'm not going to win a championship, but I think the idea is look, you got to win. This is a guy who came into the league. Year 2 is playing the Miami Heat in a hard-fought May series. Years 3 and 4 going down to a 4-2 and 4-3. On June 3rd, playing for the right to go to the MLS. That's his baseline. And at the end of the day, yes, they're going to have to make assurances. We'll shore up the depth. We got a bad break with Pat Patterson. The bench wasn't where it was. But I think ultimately they have to have a very nice run into May, win a first-round series, acquit themselves well.
They're in 7th, tied in the loss column for 9th right now.
Yeah, but how far are they out of 3rd?
Yeah, that's an interest. That's an important
just because
distinction.
that West is so stacked.
Yeah, the standings are misleading because they're not really 7th. Like, you're not good enough to be 3rd. You're just there are so many teams and they're all separated by a game or 2.
Well, I mean, they are really 7th.
Yeah.
Those tiebreakers are all there for a reason. But yes,
hey, so then they upset in the first round.
Right,
now
right.
they beat a 3 or
that's what I guess I'm saying.
Yeah.
The difference between the 7th seed and the 3 seed is not as vast as what you would imagine in a regular year. But I think there was 2 things a couple of months ago when we talked about this. What does it need for Paul George to stay in Oklahoma City? I said two things. Obviously, their success is one thing. The other is how he's used, how he's utilized. Because at the time when we talked about this, he was basically Thabo Cephalosha. Hey, defend, stand in the corner, we'll get you some threes.
Sure.
Which, even if they won 75 games and won a championship, that's not very fulfilling for a player of his stature, right? You mentioned going deep and almost going to the finals as a main piece, not as a guy just stand in the corner and be quiet, right? And so, kudos to them. They figured out their offensive issues, and they did feature him, and he did feel a part of this thing, and they were very successful. But now the other part comes in, the team success. And so being a 7th seed isn't as important to me as getting out of the first round, having a real chance at playing for a chance to go to the finals. That's more important than where we were seated in the playoffs.
Right, and that's why last night gets us to this question. It's that, hey, they were across the floor from a team that at the beginning of the season, they thought they might finish better than, right? They were like, oh, we could be better than the Rockets. We could be the challengers to Golden State. Last night pretty concretely showed us that is not the case. Obviously, the last couple months have showed us that's not the case. So if that's not going to be their sell to Paul George, sort of what is it going to be? You guys think that they can still do enough in these last few weeks to be like, yes, this is the place?
Yeah, because for me, it's not the standings. It's how do we do in the playoffs. If they they beat the Rockets in the second round. If they lose to the Warriors, or if they beat the Warriors and go to the finals, I think those are all, no matter where they.
Watching that game last night, you think that they could beat the Rockets in the second round?
I'm not saying they can. I'm saying where they finish in the playoff picture is irrelevant unless where they finish is 9.
It'll be a momentum play, right? Like, okay, yeah, they win a first-round series against a San Antonio, against a Minnesota. They acquit themselves well.
Sure.
He's featured on the move in situations at the elbow where he can just absolutely, get and go. I mean, there's a functional place for him in a lineup that seems like I could play like this. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, this is good. This gives you your mission, Oklahoma City Thunder.